Alright guys, in the last video we went ahead and set up Angular in the front end and the logs component, which right now is pretty much blank. So what we want to do is create a service to interact with the Feathers server. So let's create a folder inside the public and then inside the app folder, and we're going to call this services. Alright, and then inside there we're going to create a new file, and we're going to call this feathers.service.ts. Alright, and then just add all the standard stuff that we usually do, such as injectable, okay. We're also going to be using the HTTP module, so let's import that. We want HTTP and also headers. It's going to be Angular HTTP. Alright, we're also going to want the map operator for observables. So that's going to be rxjs/add/operator/map. Alright, and then we're going to say at injectable and then export class feathers service, and in here we'll put a constructor, and we need to inject the HTTP module. So right here we'll say private underscore HTTP and set that to HTTP. Alright, and under the constructor we're going to have our get logs function, which is going to be really easy. It's going to be very similar to what we've been doing throughout the course. We're going to return an observable using the HTTP module. So this dot underscore HTTP dot get, and then the URL we want to pass in is going to be localhost, okay, because we're just interacting with our Feathers server, and port 3030/logs. Alright, and then we can do our .map, and in here let's say response res.json. Alright, so let's go ahead and save that. Now since we're using HTTP, we need to bring in the HTTP providers in the app component. So let's do that. Alright, and then we're going to put that down here in providers. Save it. And then let's go into the logs component TS file. And actually, did we bring the service in? No, in the app component file we also need to bring in the service. So import what is it, feathers service, and that's going to be from let's see, // no, not // actually, yeah, // we want to go into services, so it's // feather.service. No? Services. Oh, it's feathers with an S. Alright, and then we need to add that as a provider as well. Alright, and then let's copy that import, and we're going to bring it into the logs component, except the path is different. It's going to be // Alright, and we want to go down here into the class, and we're going to have a property called messages, which will be an array, and I'm going to give it a certain type of message. All right, and then we're going to set that to an empty array. Okay, now we need to create a class called message. So inside the app folder, let's create a file called not messages. Let's do logs.ts. All right, let me change that inside the component. I don't want message. It's going to be log. All right, so we'll save that, and then down in the logs ts, let's see, we're going to export class log, and let's see, create a constructor, and inside here in the parentheses we want our fields. So we're going to have public developer, which will be a string. We'll have text, string. It's going to have an ID, underscore ID, which Feathers actually creates automatically. I'm going to put a question mark here just to make it optional. Now, what I mean by optional isn't that some won't have an ID, but it'll allow us to submit a log without having to specify an ID, because Feathers does it on its own. That's why that's optional. All right, and then public, we're going to also have the date. Make that optional as well, and that'll be a string. All right, so that's it for that file. Let's save it, and let's go back to our component. Let's see, so we need to bring that log in. So up here, we're going to say import log from and actually, you know what I'm going to do is call that log, not logs. So let's delete the JS, and then for the TS, we're going to rename that to just log. All right, and then in the component, we're going to bring that in. So we want ... log. All right. And let's change this to logs. I was going to call it messages, but I decided to change it. Now we want to fetch the logs. I don't want to do that in the constructor. We will create a constructor because we need to inject the service. So if we say private underscore feathers service and set that to feather service, and then we want to use ng on init. So up here we're going to also import on init, and then we need to say implement on init, and then we need the function ng on init. And from in here, we're going to use the service, feather service dot get logs, and then we can subscribe. Okay, and in here, we're going to say logs, and then let's do console.log logs. Alright, so if we save that, and you can see down here it's returning an empty array, which is good. That's what we want. So we want to assign it. We'll say this.logs equals logs. Save it, and then we're going to go into our HTML here, and let's put in a div, and we want ng4, and we're going to say let logs of, or let log of logs. Alright, and let's see, in here, let's put a div. Okay, so we have a div inside here. Let's put a strong tag, and this is going to be the log text. Okay, so we'll have the text, and then let's say colon by, and then the developer. And then we'll say at, and then we want the date, log.date. Alright, and then let's see. We want to have a delete button after that, but I'm not going to put that on just yet. Alright, so let's save that. Now, it's not going to show us any logs because we don't have any, but just make sure that you have no errors in the console. Okay, so now what we need to do is create a form so that we can actually add logs to the system. Alright, so we'll get into that next.